Hello, SAD 4. I want to welcome you to iPad Parent Night 2017. I realized not everybody could make it to the presentations, so I wanted to make sure that everybody at least had a chance to take a look at them, or if you did get to make it, you could go look back at it. So this is basically the presentation that we're doing with the kiddos and that we're helping them to understand. So the things that students actually receive training on are, and this is in our board policy, IJNDB paragraph 5, appropriate online behavior. So we review the policies, social networking and chatting. This is very important, especially for students to understand, the safety, how to be safe with that, and also the different dangers that can happen with social networking and chatting. Cyberbullying. Keep an eye out for more information coming on our website. We really want to work on building a library of resources for the families to access, and then appropriate responses to cyberbullying. I have hard copies of all of the policies and pieces that I'm going to chat with you about this evening, and they're also accessible on the sad4.org website. So for student computer and internet use and cyber safety, there's a policy. And our SAD4 policy says that devices, network and internet, are provided to support the educational mission of schools. So we really encourage the students and also parents to think about is what you're doing on the iPad educational. Is it something that is going to support your child's education? And as I've explained to the kids, educational does not mean boring. It doesn't mean it has to be something boring to be educational. It can be fun, exciting, creative, and it should be something like that. So, but it's got to be something you can somehow talk about in terms of educational mission. Also, the use of personal devices is allowed as long as students comply with the policy and rules. So kids want to use their cell phones, that's okay, as long as they follow the rules. Okay, and as long as they use them appropriately. Computer and iPad use is a privilege. That's not a right. These computers, there's nothing that says you have a right to a computer. It's just something that we do for the kids, and we really want to continue doing for the kids because we believe it supports their education. This applies to school computers and iPads and other electronics. It also applies to personal devices at school and schools' networks, accounts, and internet. And if that privilege is misused, then the devices will not be able to be used here. Also, as far as acceptable use, the policy defines acceptable use in terms of educational purposes consistent with the school unit's educational mission, curriculum, and instructional goals. So that's how the device is to be used. This is no matter where they're used, whether it's home or at school. And also, we want kids to understand, and the families also, that they must follow specific teacher or administrator instructions. We don't know everything. We don't know everything about what's on the internet right now. And we certainly don't know what may develop over the next month, 2 months, year. And we really are counting on the kids to help make us aware of some of those things and then follow the directions that we give them to help guide how they should be using the technology. So if something comes up and we say, okay, you can't use that app, or, well, this wasn't really in keeping with our educational mission, we want kids to understand that, all right, no, I'm not going to use it. I'll do something else, or at least have a discussion about it. Not say something like, whoa, it's not in the rules that I can't do this. No, sometimes new stuff comes up with this, and that's really at the discretion of the teacher and administrator. Prohibited uses. So there's a lot of those, and we have to talk about them. And, safety is number one. We want kids to learn, but our number one job in SAD4 is to keep kids safe. So there are certain things that are not allowed. Number one, accessing or communicating inappropriate materials. Illegal activities, that's not allowed anyway. So, or any activity that violates any board policies, procedures, and or school rules. And another important piece with this, SAD4 is not liable for damages if you violate the law or policy. So we want kids to follow the rules, and we want kids and families to understand that SAD4 will not be liable if the law or policy is violated. Also, verbal or written statements, including those made using computers or other electronic communication devices or technologies, which threaten, intimidate, or harass others, or which tend to incite violence and or disrupt the school program, are prohibited, whether technology or not. Violating copyright or software licenses. This one is a big one. So do not copy, download, or share any copyrighted material. Music, video, software, it's illegal. And SAD4 will not assume any responsibility for damages due to copyright or license violations. So don't do it. Plagiarism. Don't use other people's stuff as your own. Cite your sources, whether they're online or from somewhere else. And the policy defines plagiarism as representing as one's own work any materials obtained on the internet in terms of this internet use policy. And then there's a few non-school related uses that are not allowed. We don't want you to start a business and make money, well, eventually, but not on our machines. We don't want you to advertise stuff, and we don't want you to solicit. And that means we don't want you to try to send out a bunch of emails to try to get people to join your cause or to support something that you're doing, especially if it's not school related. All right, before you send out any email messages that might be just a message between a student and teacher or between a student and another student, you want to make sure you got permission to do that and that it's within the policy. Also, misuse of passwords or unauthorized access. Do not share your password. It's very tempting to share your password sometimes. Let your friend use your account. Don't do it, because guess what? If something happens while your friend's using your account and if something is not good, you're the one that's going to be held liable. Okay, you're the one that's going to be in trouble, and you don't even give yourself the headache. I know it's convenient. Maybe you want to help your friend. We're happy to reset passwords. We're happy to help you out with that. So get in touch with somebody who can help, either myself or Mr. Thomas. Don't use other people's passwords or accounts for exactly that reason. And also, don't try to find ways around the security system. We know you're smart, okay? We understand that. But the security system is there to keep you safe and also to keep the people in the school district safe, to keep our equipment safe. We know some of you could find ways around. Don't do it, okay? It's there to protect you and to protect us. Also, malicious use, vandalism. Malicious use, disruption, or harm to the school unit's computers, electronic devices, networks, internet, and other services. Not allowed. We don't want you to do that to any of our stuff or your stuff. So don't do it. No hacking, and no creating or uploading viruses. I'm sure none of you in the district would do that, but it's in the policy that you can't do it according to the rules. Also, avoiding school filters. They're there to keep you safe, and they're there to keep the school district safe. So don't try to access blocked content. Okay, don't try to put in a website that lets you go around the school filters. Don't do it. Okay, I know they're developing stuff all the time that lets you do that sort of stuff, but don't. Okay, because otherwise we can't protect you. All right. So, and if there's something that you need, and you guys are very, very, very educationally oriented. I've noticed very hard workers, and you really want to learn a lot. So there may be something that you need that is filtered or blocked. Just ask me about it. Ask the technology director to unblock something you think you need for educational purposes. Most of the time you'll have had a discussion with your teacher. You may have had a discussion with me. And then when I understand what it is, we can take a look at it together. All right? So just have a conversation about it. Don't try to, find a way around. Also, this is prohibited. Accessing blogs and social networking sites. Okay? Do not access them here at school. and do not access them on school devices. If you need access for educational purposes, contact the technology director. Okay? Social networking opens up a whole new world where you really have to pay attention and you really have to be vigilant. I understand some of you are using it on your personal devices, using it on your phones, and on your own time. That's fine. And I am going to just caution you, please stay safe. It is very easy to get into trouble talking maybe with somebody you don't know, or, clicking on a link or a picture or something that may not be safe for you. So I'm really just going to caution you and ask you to use your common sense. And if you see something that doesn't look right, tell somebody. Okay? Because we're counting on you to report stuff. Also, this is important. No expectation of privacy. These devices are not yours. They belong to SAD4. This applies to district devices, personal devices being used at school, which are your devices. But when you're using them on our networks, with our internet in SAD4, you have no expectation of privacy because we can see, what's going across our network if we need to. District internet services, and also email messages and stored files. All of that stuff we're able to monitor. So it's not private. I don't want you to think that, what you're doing on your machine is something private. If you have a journal or a diary at home, fine, that's private. We're not monitoring that. But this is something that we do need to monitor. And Mr. Freeve, our current interim superintendent, has asked that we monitor traffic across our network, as well as computer and internet activity to ensure compliance with the policy and rules. So please follow the rules. I don't like to have to go trying to find stuff. So follow the rules. If you stumble across something where you shouldn't be, come talk to me. Come tell me so that we can get it sorted out. But do not have any expectation of privacy while using your devices. Student security. Okay, as I mentioned, our number one thing is to keep you safe. So it's very important that we look at student security. Do not share your full name, address, telephone number, social security number, or other personal information on the internet. And you really shouldn't be sharing that anywhere else either, unless it's, the doctor's office or somewhere that you might need that. Don't use cameras in locker rooms or bathrooms. That's actually in the policy, which means that happened somewhere. Maybe not in this district, but somewhere at some time, somebody did that. Okay, so don't do it. Do not post videos or pictures online without proper permission. Do not arrange to meet people you've contacted over the internet. And let your teacher know right away if you run across information or messages that is dangerous, inappropriate, or makes you uncomfortable. Okay, it's really important. If you see something that's not right, tell somebody. Because if you don't tell somebody, who's gonna? Right? We want to make sure you're reporting if something's not right, because then we can be attentive to it and hopefully helpful. Also, system security. So security of the school unit's computers, electronic devices, networks, internet, and other services is a high priority. We want you to notify an administrator immediately if you identify a security problem. We don't want you showing it off to your friends. Hey, look what I found. No. Stop. Go show your teacher. Have them get, an administrator's attention so we can get it taken care of. Also, if you happen to cause a security breach for some reason or another, you'll have your privileges taken away and you might be subject to additional disciplinary and or legal actions. So I'm going to let you know right now, if you do something that is not right with our machines, with the SAD4 equipment or over SAD4 networks, there will be consequences. And if you do something, I am going to ask that you come tell me, that you come talk to me. You come talk to the technology director, the building administrator. Okay, that's really important. That if you do make a mistake, you come and let somebody know about it. All right, it makes the whole process of understanding, what we're actually working with a lot better for everybody. So don't do it in the first place, but if you make a mistake, come let us know. Phishing. All right, it's important to know what to look for. So as I've stated, and I really can't state enough, safety and security of district employees, students, and families is number one. So do not open or forward any communication from anyone you don't know. Watch for requests for personal information and do not provide any personal information. I want you to watch for logos that look similar to actual logos, and don't respond to requests if a company's logo looks even a little bit strange. Phishing often comes through emails, and it's usually somebody might, let's say, pretend it's Amazon or something, and it might say, this is from, I don't know, Amazon.com. We need you to log in with your account information to, I don't know, check a charge or get a refund or something fake anyway. But it might look pretty close to real. Some people actually log in and then somebody else has stolen their information. So that's what happens with phishing. And if something looks a little bit off, because a lot of times these phishing emails, they'll look a little bit off, don't click on them. And definitely don't click to sign into your account through an email link. That's just asking for trouble. So if you get a message from Amazon that says they need you to sign in, go to the Amazon website separately. Okay, even a different browser, and see if there's something going on in your account. Take a look that way. But don't do it through email, because a lot of times that's a phishing scam. And people are just trying to make money off you, and they do. So just be careful. You have to protect yourself. Okay. One more thing that we have to address is called cyberbullying. And cyberbullying is basically bullying using the computer, and it's not allowed. So Maine Law, Title 20A, 6554 statute, prohibition of bullying in public schools and school board policy on bullying, JICK. So cyberbullying is defined by the policy as bullying through the use of technology or any electronic communication, including but not limited to a transfer of signs, signals, writing, images, sounds, data, or intelligence of any nature transmitted by the use of any electronic device, including but not limited to a computer, telephone, cellular telephone, text messaging device, or personal digital assistant. It's really important to think about the definition and all of the different pieces it includes. And this policy actually has a lot of different levels to it, a lot of different layers to it. I'm going to go through them with you right now, but I would also encourage you to read through the policy and really think about it on your own and think about what the implications are, what it means, who it applies to. Bullying includes, but it's not limited to, a written, oral, or electronic expression, or a physical act or gesture, or any combination thereof directed at a student or students that, first of all, number one, has or a reasonable person would expect it to have. So it doesn't actually get to have this effect, but it could have this effect. Either physically harming a student or damaging a student's property, or placing a student in reasonable fear of physical harm or damage to his or her property. Bullying interferes with the rights of a student by creating an intimidating or hostile educational environment for the student, or interfering with the student's academic performance or ability to participate in or benefit from the services, activities, or privileges provided by the school, or is based on a student's actual or perceived characteristics identified in 5 MRSA 4602 or 4684A, and it includes a number of characteristics that fall into what could be targeted, or a student's association with a person with one or more of these actual or perceived characteristics, or any other distinguishing characteristics, and that has the effect described in subparagraph A or B above. So as you can see, there are a lot of layers to this, and you really have to think about it a little bit. But basically, if something's happening online that's not right, if somebody's being mean and nasty to somebody else, report it. If somebody's being mean and nasty to you, report it. Take screenshots of it. Okay? Tell somebody, and then go from there. But this is the actual formal definition, so when you take a look at it. Okay, now this bullying policy applies to bullying that takes place at school or on school grounds, at any school-sponsored or school-related activity or event, or while students are being transported to or from school or school-sponsored activities or events, or, now this is where the computers come into things, takes place elsewhere or through the use of technology, but only if the bullying also infringes on the rights of the student at school, as set forth in the definition of bullying. And that's the definition that we just went over. So somebody could be doing cyberbullying at home, bullying somebody using the iPad or the telephone or the computer or something at home. And it could be being very nasty to somebody and having a negative effect on their ability to learn, or creating a threatening or harassing environment at school. And then in that case, the school wants to be sure that we're aware of it and that we're addressing it, because we don't want that happening. So make sure if you see something, you report it. If you know about something, you report it. If it's happening to you, report it. If you're doing it, cut it out. Okay? Change your ways. Do something different. We don't want you doing that. And if you're doing that sort of stuff, you're going to have consequences. You won't have a device to use. Students who violate this policy may be subject to disciplinary action, which may include suspension, expulsion, or a series of graduated consequences, including alternative discipline or other behavioral interventions. The board retains the right to impose disciplinary consequences for bullying and other conduct that occurs at any time or place that substantially disrupts the instructional program, operations of the schools, or welfare of students. Any student violating this policy may also be subject to civil or criminal penalties, so it's very serious. So just don't do it. All right, then we talk about the actual multi-devices and getting the iPad for learning. So in order to be able to take the iPad home, students need to have the access acknowledgement form signed and returned. And many of you have already done that for this year, so I want to thank you for getting that taken care of so quickly. You got the laptop protection plans taken care of. Most of you. And one thing I want to note about that too, so if you paid a certain amount for a laptop protection plan, we really appreciate that, and we still encourage students to be very careful with their machines. So if you drop it and you break your screen, you won't have to pay the full amount of a new iPad or a new screen or screen repair, which runs at pretty close to $400, but you will have a little bit of a deductible, probably about $100. So you want to be very careful still with your equipment, and that's what we encourage of the kids. Don't leave them sitting out. Make sure if they're using them, they just pick them up when they're done. They put them in a safe place, not where they're going to get stepped on or something spilled on them. We recognize accidents happen though, so that's why we have the protection plan. So this is a new learning environment. We want kids to use their iPads to practice their 21st century skills, which is communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and problem solving, and creativity. And some of the 21st century tools for learning they have is an iPad or their mobile device. They use their iCloud maybe, Google Apps. Everything at our school, most everything can authenticate through Google Apps for education, G Suite, which is their Gmail, Google Drive, all of those pieces. And then Marvel for research. It's a research database. Some things haven't changed. And we already talked about still expected to follow the school rules, take care of the equipment, and practice online safety and digital citizenship. So learning's the purpose of these tools. They go from toys to tools. We want purposeful, appropriate use. We want you checking school email daily, and we want you to learn and create every single day. And the school actually has an Apple Distinguished Schools program. That's over years of hard work from my predecessor and the people here. So it's 1-to-1, most grade levels, and we want to continue to be able to provide that service to you. So we really appreciate the students using the devices correctly and to do some great learning. So Apple IDs. The iPad is connected to Apple ID, and that provides access to software, backup services, books, courses, documents, updates, etc. The multi-program software, extra online storage space, backup, self-service app, which is where students will pull down most of their stuff that they need from, support, etc. So account costs, we will not be adding any money to student Apple ID accounts, and will not be attaching a credit card to the account, and any content that students are asked to download will either be free or will be provided a redemption code for, and those will be in self-service, anything that's expected to be downloaded. So you actually won't need to add any money to the account. It used to be that you could do that, but not anymore. Do students have to use the multi-accounts? Yes, if they're going to access content, because that's where we use the content that we push out, the apps and such. And all Milty-provided content and services will only be provided to that account. Personal accounts are not an option for our devices this year. And if there's a problem, we just have to restore the iPad to factory default. But most of the time we don't need to do that because our devices are managed. So kids under 13, there's actually more federal laws that govern what students can do. So Apple IDs require parental consent during setup. Since we are using managed Apple IDs, that means the district is responsible and students don't actually have access to their own app store or that sort of content. It's limited in a few ways. The account info can't be changed. You can't attach a credit card. There's limited advertising and marketing. And then parents are notified by email of changes or issues with the account. And all students in SAD4 use managed IDs on SAD4 devices. So banned apps, we already kind of talked about some things that were banned, but just ask if you're not sure. VPN, hotspot, apps that bypass the filter, or adult-oriented apps. Of course, we don't want you using any of those. When can students take the iPad home? After rollout, which we did with 7-8 already, and we'll be doing with the high school next week. And once the forms are signed and submitted with the protection plan fee, then and teachers say it's okay, the devices can go home. Okay, if you've got any other questions, you can feel free to send me an email, jdunton@sad4.org. I want to thank you for listening to the presentation, and if anything comes up, feel free to reach out, and I would love to hear your suggestions and ideas.